This is my audience: Kendra, Jessica, and John.
Did you know that every 30 minutes state troopers have to call in and report an accident? Every year 16,000 people die because of this one factor. Every other minute people are seriously injured from this one factor. And that one factor is alcohol. Approximately 30% of Americans will be in an accident involving alcohol. Do you ever think about drinking and driving? Have you ever had a drink or two and then decided to chance it and drive home? After I have a drink, I decide never to get behind the wheel because I've lost family members and close friends to drunk driving. And there is nothing worse than taking that risk. So if you plan on drinking, please be responsible and have a sober driver because it's the best choice you'll ever make. Today, I'll talk about the effects of drunk driving in today's society, what groups are out there that are against drunk driving, and should the government be allowed to impose strict laws to keep drunk drivers off the road. According to healthchecksystems.com, alcohol is metabolized quickly by our bodies and absorbed directly to the walls of our stomach. Once it reaches the stomach, it breaks down the alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme, which reduces the amount of alcohol into our blood system by 20%. In fact, women produce less of this enzyme, which they can become more intoxicated on less alcohol than men can. When drinking, the most dramatic impact on your body is in your liver. And when drinking, you can also develop blurred vision, slurred speech, stomach ulcers, liver, intestine, and urinary problems. Now let me move on to what drunk driving costs are in our economy. And as you can see, every year, $46 billion come from alcohol crashes, whereas 12% is medical from the people who survive alcohol-related crashes. According to Wikipedia, drunk driving is the act of driving a motor vehicle with blood alcohol levels exceeding the limit of 0.05 to 0.08% of blood alcohol content. And you can get a DUI on rollerblades, a skateboard, vehicle, lawnmower, or anything else that has wheels and you're operating. Drinking can be enjoyable, but you need to watch your consumption. According to Nick Collins on smh.com, alcohol makes people feel good because it produces chemicals that laughing or exercising would. These chemicals cause people to become addicted, and people need to be aware of drinking for their own health. Now let's move on to the groups against drunk driving. According to MADD, or Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Minnesota is 27th in the nation, whereas North Dakota is second worst in DUI-related deaths, just behind South Carolina. And as you can see here, North Dakota has less DUI fatalities, but the percentage of deaths due to DUI are greater than Minnesota. According to SADD, or Students Against Drunk Driving, most teens feel like they are invincible, and that death is a long shot. The goal of SADD is to make teens aware of underage drinking and driving, violence, suicide, substance abuse, and other illegal drugs. Now that I talked a little bit about the groups against drunk driving, let's move on to the ways the government can help keep drunk drivers off the road. In a survey conducted by MAD, or Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they asked two questions to random citizens. The first one was, what's the most important problem facing the country today? And as you can see, drunk driving is 7% whereas that's higher than education, bad driving, or racism. And the other question they asked was, should penalties be for violating drinking and driving more severe? And more than 75% of them said yes, they should be more severe. So although people want the government to step in and pass strict laws to keep drunk drivers off the road, they also want to keep our Fourth Amendment. And stated by Wikipedia, the Fourth Amendment is the right against unreasonable searches and seizures, along with requiring any warrant to be judicially sanctioned and supported by probable causes. But in order to keep our drunk drivers off the road, we may need to give up this Fourth Amendment. And according to CBSNews.com or alcoholismabout.com, law enforcement is trying to implement devices to help keep drunk drivers off the road. In this picture you see a police officer that has a device to detect alcohol in the car or on the driver's breath. They are even trying to implement devices inside cars to measure alcohol for drivers, and if they detect any alcohol, it automatically shuts the car off, not allowing them to drive. So someday, we may have these devices to prevent drunk drivers on the road, but it may cost us that Fourth Amendment right. So today I've talked about the effects of drunk driving in the society, the groups against drunk driving, and if the government should impose strict laws to keep drunk drivers off the road. And in today's society, privacy is a major concern. But with drinking and driving fatalities where they are today, something is needed to control this. Life is about choices, and drinking while driving is not one up for debate.